Hi, my name is TJ. My dad died of overdose on January 1st, 2011, and my mom is a recovering addict. God helped my mom, and now together we are here to help you. Now let's talk recovery. Here's your host, my mom, Susan Sexton-Wood.
Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk Recovery. I am your host, Susan Sexton-Wood. Today I have a special guest, and that is Bob and Emily McCoy. Bob I met about 4 years ago. He is a community member in the Randolph County area and just wanted to start helping the drug epidemic that was taking so many lives, and he started to just do his part and what he could do in the Randolph County area to help anyone that may have even asked for help, and to search out those that maybe didn't ask for help to let them know that there was help. How are you doing, Bob and Emily?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Good.
Thanks for having us.
I've been trying to get you to come on here.
Busy.
Yeah, you are. You
Yep.
are really busy. So I think we'll just start off by you sharing your heart. I know we met about 4 years ago, and it was actually a meeting in Lynn.
Right.
That was the very first time that we met, and you have just really, as a person that has never struggled with addiction yourself, you don't have a family member that struggles with addiction, you're out in the community really putting forth 110%. I know if someone was to say Randolph County, your name is always brought up, and I think
Wow.
that is really neat. So just share your heart and why you were even led to start helping those who struggle with addiction.
Well, prior to meeting you, a kid, young adult named Matt Cook had passed away of an overdose, and I'd heard about it, just people overdosing, and I've heard a little bit about heroin and things like that. But I think that one there, being he was well known in the community, kind of hit home with a lot of people, and it was really publicized. Although there had been ones in the past that weren't so publicized, they weren't in sports, and they weren't the popular kids and things like that. But when Matt died, his parents came forward, and there was a meeting called at the 4-H grounds, and he pretty much put it out there. Said, he said, during the funeral, they had the funeral out there, and he took his kid's friends and took him to the casket. And he said, this is what happens. This is the end result. Mm-hmm. He said, you basically got, you make the choice, it's life or this. And that kind of hit home. And I started thinking about my daughter and her friends. And I look at her and I think about, just like your last guest said, good student, smart. It's all them kids. It happens to them too.
Right.
I mean, and Matt was a perfect example of that. And I was concerned, and I wanted her to understand the consequences, and I wanted her to distance herself from anybody that she would see that would think that could possibly lead her down the wrong path. And also, I wanted her to reach out to people and be their friend and try to maybe talk them out of it, or talk them into taking a different path. Mm-hmm. So that more than anything, she was kind of the driving factor. Mm-hmm. And you were talking about addiction in the family. My uncle did have a stepdaughter that passed, and that had been probably a couple years after I started coming to some of your meetings. And Jim, mm-hmm. His stepdaughter had passed, and they found her dead of an overdose, and he's been really involved, and he was involved before that, and he had a daughter and a granddaughter that were troubled, and I think it still worries him to this day.
Yeah. So you have some relation by marriage.
Somewhat, yes. Yeah. So it's a worry. Like I said, more of I would hope that she would never even consider it, but you don't take nothing for granted. And I just want her to be educated on it, and I want her to understand the consequences.
And one thing that you are doing is you're not trying to pull her away from people that are struggling, but she sees the people that are struggling, and ultimately it would be her choice. And really, it's hitting everybody. You can't really protect somebody, but for her to see realistically, like, look at what is happening. I think it would be good, and maybe this could start in Randolph County, because this is literally just being laid on my heart, about getting the schools to take tours in a treatment center. You know, the ones that are even 14 and up. I mean, we should probably go a little lower, but to start with the higher grades, because, you know, they're getting ready to graduate, and that's something that
I agree.
You got so much started in Randolph. You were part of it. You were part of what was started. I know, I think I was one of the first people that you guys helped get my office there.
Right.
And it's just spiraled, and there's a lot of stuff happening there. But you could be the person to bring that up and get it started. You know, even if it starts with the seniors, to go into the VOA and listen to the true life stories.
I think, you know, one of the things that we did look at, let's go back 4 or 5 years ago. I had met with a group, and we'd had discussions on what is the number one problem in Randolph County, and, you know, we kind of did some surveys, and it kept coming back as heroin.
Yeah.
And everybody wanted something done about it, but nobody would really step up. And, you know, I kind of ran into you at the Lynn meeting, and then I kind of followed you at Freedom Life Church, and then, you know, I'm a county councilman, and I kind of thought, well, you know, I get my name out and kind of use that to approach the commissioners and things, and that's how we ended up getting your office, by asking for some funding and explain that, you know, this problem isn't going away, and this problem affects, you know, our economics of our county. I mean, you know, there's people that are using drugs that are in jail, and, you know, the jobs and the whole, it all surround,
and
you know,
theft and all the accidents.
Yes, it all ties together. So, you know, and then from there, you know, we just started the Fresh Start Recovery through the VOA. I was kind of part of getting that going with Mayor Sean Byram. We went down to the VOA in Indianapolis, and we looked at what they were doing, and, you know, we had discussions over a few years, and Sean was approached, and it kind of went from there. It was a struggle. You know, a lot of people, you still go back and they say, you know, why waste our money on these people?
Right.
Why? They did it to themselves. Well, I understand it is a decision, and they made the choice. But, you know, I've sat in meetings at Brianna's Hope and some of your events, and I've seen some of these people, and I've talked to them. I've become friends with them, and they're just like me. They're just like her. They're just like anybody else. But they had a weak moment, and they made a bad decision. And that one bad decision, they're hooked.
Right.
And it may not happen to everybody that first time, because I think people have addictive personalities or addiction, chemical thing. But I think once it happens, it's hard to get out.
It is, and it is a chemical thing too. You know, I've been taught that if they look at your brain and they look at my brain, it's going to be different.
Yep.
One thing I don't think people realize is, and I'm just going to throw a percentage out there, I'm not saying that it's true, but probably 80% of people that struggle with addiction also have a mental illness. I struggle with bipolar and depression. Okay, that's the reason that I ran to using drugs, is because I self-medicated. Does everybody self-medicate? No, but there's a high number that people are. So it's not just those people. It's we have an issue, and the issue leads us to using drugs and alcohol. And you know me pretty well today. I'm a recovering addict. You know, and I know I'm a good person. I know I am. I made horrible choices, and my kids had to live through that.
Right.
And it's made them who they are today, but it doesn't make me any less than.
Right.
You know, one thing that I see people, it's always, you know, again, those people. But what about people that gamble and they're addicted to sex and they're addicted to food? You know, food is a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't hear those people.
No, not at all.
But it's killing people too.
It is.
You know,
It
that
is.
is too.
It is, and it's sad. And then you look at our children, and you look at what they're growing up in, as far as, in my opinion. I mean, even though everybody says the economy is so great and growing, and everybody's got jobs. Yeah, everybody does have jobs, but I mean, McDonald's and Burger King and Arby's for a married couple is not going to pay the bills.
Right.
When your electric just keeps going up. And, you know, I understand how people can get depressed and want to give up. And then you look at our kids coming out of high school. I mean, she's a senior, and, you know, you want to say, you know, your best choice is to go to college, but you want them to make up their own mind, and you want them to be their own person.
Right.
You want the best for them, and you understand that. And I'm not saying that staying in Winchester is a bad thing, but there's no jobs that will support a family unless you want to work in a factory. So, you know, healthcare, just, they need an education, and they need to understand that it's tough, and it's not going to get any easier.
No, and it's not. And
No.
And minimum wage, it seems like minimum wage hasn't gone up in years.
No, it's not easy, and you know, there's a lot of families struggling, and you know, I think there's a lower class, and I think there's an upper class. There's no really in between
Middle,
anymore, and you know, you've got to really watch what you spend, and you know, with technology, and everybody have to have cell phones, and kids being brought up with a cell phone in their hand, and it's very demanding on the parent, and it'd be tough raising. I don't know where I could raise more than one.
Right.
But you know, it's tough for our kids. It really is. And you know, then you know, you worry about them being depressed and using drugs.
And just society. When you talk about phones, if somebody doesn't have a phone, just
Pressure.
when you think about the school. So Emily, when we're talking about addiction, and you're in the community, and your dad is a big advocate, do you ever run into situations where somebody might be saying, well, your dad shouldn't be doing this?
I've had some positive and some negative. Mostly people know that I'm the kind of person that likes to reach out to people also, so they just kind of accept that and realize that that's the kind of people we are. So overall, I haven't had a bad response, and I'm kind of the same way. People need to be educated both on how addiction works, and also need to change their minds about pushing people away just because they consider someone, I don't know, undesirable because they're addicted or because they have this issue or that. They're the people that need love the most, and we really need to be more compassionate and considerate about that.
Yeah. So with you being in school, and you're a senior, so you're getting ready to graduate, you got this year, right? If you're kind of ahead of the game because your dad is an advocate and you like to help people too. But if you think about in high school or even in middle school, what can we do to help the kids understand don't use drugs?
I mean, one of the big things that struck me is him being involved and just hearing all the stories that he's told me about it. He's come back and said to me multiple times, you know, after you've heard this, I hope you never go to this. You've heard this, you know this. And I feel like more people need to hear that shocking tale. And it might be disturbing to them, but the presentations where they come in and they bring a casket and things like that, that's what sticks in your mind.
Yeah.
It's what works.
And they are doing that.
Yeah.
They're doing that in some schools. Have they come in your school to do that?
Yes, I think it was last year was the last time we had a presentation. But this is a new school year, so maybe more this year.
Yeah. And so I think maybe everybody's getting on the same page and things are happening. I know we've gone into a couple schools and I was a little harsh, I think. You know, when you look out and kids are laughing I just got real, I think, and it's not funny. This isn't funny, and people are dying. So if you could tell somebody that may be watching as a teen, what could you say to someone that may be struggling right now, and they're kind of back and forth with even getting help?
One decision does not affect your life. No matter what you do, one decision should not affect you. You are loved. There's someone out there that does care about you or will care about you. And not only do you need to live and improve yourself because of yourself, but for that person that does love you.
That's good. You can really tell not only you advocating out in the community, but what you've also done with your daughter.
No, I'm glad.
That's
I'm glad she's picking up on it.
That's huge.
Yeah,
that's huge.
I'm glad she's picking up on it, and we've come a long way. But have we slowed it down? Are we here? Are we continuing to climb? I don't know. I mean, I'm still hearing of deaths. A lot of controversy over everybody carrying Narcan now. Who's to make that decision?
I think we've touched a lot of lives, but ultimately, addiction is the same thing as Christianity. When some of us are called to plant the seed, some people are called to water, and so even though somebody planted a seed, I still relapsed, but it doesn't mean that seed wasn't accepted. Like it was planted.
Right.
But the right person hadn't come to water it, maybe. And so I think we're touching a lot of lives, but ultimately it's us. We have to do something about it. I think if I look at not only the Randolph County area, but the other areas that we've been in, I know we've impacted as a team when it comes to you and Brianna's Hope, and now the VOA is there, and the drug-free Randolph County. When you look at all of that, it is an impact. It's an impact, and so maybe if we can look at, you've planted a seed. One of the seeds that you've planted was helping me get in the office there, which in return has helped me work one-on-one with a lot of people.
Right.
Now the VOA is open, and I'm going in there to do a meeting. So
that's great.
There's a lot happening, and we can get discouraged because we don't want anybody to pass away anymore. But realistically, we have to do the work that it takes not to make that bad decision anymore. And when it comes to drug addiction, even alcohol, it's just powerful. It consumes us. It takes over our thought process, and the only thing we think about is that until we get more people involved in our lives, and they're helping with coping skills and helping us build the structure. For a lot of us, it takes going to jail, and that's another thing. When we think about the jail, I go in there and work with people one-on-one, and the biggest thing I hear is there's nothing in here. What do they expect us to do? So for people to be able to grow also in jail. So do you want to share with us about drug-free Randolph County?
I've been a part of Drug Free Randolph County for, I think this is my third year. Basically, we provide small grants to organizations, whether it be a school, your group. The schools, it's about the drug testing, so they get a little bit of money. It may be $1,000, but I think there was $16,000 or $17,000, which comes from basically fees to the probation office, community corrections, and that money basically once a year we're able to spread it out. Sometimes it's thin because there's multiple applicants. Last year I'd actually applied on behalf of the Volunteers of America to kind of get the word out for their program, to get pamphlets printed and for them to come to our Mardi Gras and different events. This year I didn't apply. I didn't see they planted this. They're there now. They're established and they're going. So I didn't apply for that grant. I just kind of sat back and let let others have that portion, which might have been another $500.
Right.
So, and $500 to you
Is
or
big
to some
for
of the others
littler-
is big because, I mean, that's how you pay the bills. I mean, grants.
Yeah.
And I understand for you, it's been a struggle sometimes, saying, hey, do I need to get a job or what's God leading me to do, know?
That's this year for sure.
Yeah.
And I started Unchained Praises in 2013. I've been in Randolph County at that office for almost 4 years now. I think about 3.5 years.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
It really is. But, like I said, drug-free Randolph County, we just kind of try to give a little bit to organizations to try to help them out. And it's basically money coming back from arrest and things like that. But it is a good organization, and we have good discussions, and we put together what they call a comprehensive community plan every year, and it goes to the state, and they kind of pull numbers from that, and they get an idea what Randolph County looks like,
Right.
whether it be surveys done by the schools, whether it be tobacco use, alcohol use, marijuana, and the list. Basically, kind of looks at the families too.
Yeah, the numbers
yes.
of who's using what, and
Right.
and it's a team effort too, because there's the different organizations,
Yes.
and we come together and try to help each other.
Right.
Because we can't do it by ourselves.
And we've being there is, I mean, the sheriff's department's involved, the schools are involved, you're involved, Brianna's Hope's involved, right? I think. Yes.
Well, Craig sometimes he just started. He's kind of with us and them.
But everybody has a
Centerstone, Meridian.
Yeah, they have an idea or an opinion of what may work or what may not work or what's working. What can we do to help more people? What can we do to get the word out? We have these services, but yet nobody's coming to them. Like, they'd have group at Centerstone, and they'd cancel it because they couldn't get people to come to it. Getting the word out that way, getting more treatment options, getting the judges to agree to drug courts that's working in other counties like Jay County. And you're not going to tell an elected official what to do.
Right.
So it's got to be kind of plant that idea in their head and show them what's working in other places.
Right.
And maybe at that point they'll say, maybe we do need a drug court in Randolph County.
Well, and a lot of times, realistically, we have to be forced to do some things.
Yes.
That's just realistic.
Yeah.
And even though sometimes you'll hear people say, well, no, that person's being forced to go, they're not learning anything. We can still learn something if we're being forced to do it. And it's better than nothing, because if it's when you come from being in active addiction to trying to get help, a lot of us don't know exactly what to do. So to have somebody point it out and say, here's what's out there, that's a big deal.
Yes, it is. And one positive about the VOA when they opened up, we originally thought that this was going to be all about women that were in the system, the DCS system, where they were losing their children. And they ended up getting more money from, I don't know, if it's federal government or state government. Well, now anybody that is having issues with addiction, that is pregnant or with child under 5, I think it is, they can get a referral and they can possibly go there.
Right. And the VOA is Volunteers of America.
Yes.
For those that don't know about it, but they have to have a referral from DCS, right? It has to be.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, if they're not involved in DCS and they're just, they have addiction problems, they can get in now.
Okay.
Yeah.
When
so,
did this happen? Just recently?
Right before they opened, they actually found out they would take people that do not have DCS cases.
Okay.
Which is great, because a lot of people say, well, you're taking care of the criminals, and you're not taking care of the general public, that, you know, what about this guy that has a problem that, you know, he don't get help because he's not arrested, so should he go out and get arrested, you know, things like that. I mean,
and
you know,
for the recovery works
yes,
and stuff
exactly.
like that. Well, and sometimes if we have to go get a referral and there's like a long, lengthy process to get in, the majority of the time we're back out there using.
Exactly.
And so really, when you look at the timing, it's very crucial. If I say, Bob, I want help. I need help. I need to do it now.
And you need to act on it right then.
It's very important.
And we've had that conversation. Yeah. We've had them phone calls where we were trying to get somebody, you know, back when we'd send people to Harbor Lights, you know, and we tried to, you know, we had some money through Reach All Randolph County at one time, and it was a struggle to get everybody on the same page to make them understand that $500 or whatever it would be, but when somebody makes that decision, I want help and I want help now, we've got to act on it.
Right. And it's serious when it comes to heroin addiction, because there's a sickness. And if people don't realize, the sickness is what keeps us in active addiction. If I am sick and I got the choice, I can go, if this place opens, but it might be an hour or it might be tomorrow, and I know that my drugs are right here and I'm going to feel better.
You're gonna change your mind.
Right. Yep. And so it's very time critical, very time critical. We have a couple minutes left, Bob, if you want to, if someone's out there and they don't, whether they understand addiction or they're someone that's in active addiction, what can you say to someone to just encourage them to reach out for help or to get some education? And education is not just about here's this book about drugs. It's about listening to people that have struggled with addiction.
You know, I would say, and you know, our police officers are on board with everybody. They're in this battle, and it hurts them. They have family, and they see it every day. And you know, if you've got a problem and you need help, you know, look up a police officer. Look you up. Just ask. Like, you know, like Emily said, you know, nobody's going to judge you. Make that decision, take that first step, and find somebody that will get you in somewhere. We'll make them phone calls, because now, you know, in my opinion, we have a lot more resources than we ever did. We can get you into counseling. We can get you in to Harbor Lights. You know, we can get you in the VOA if you're a woman with child. There's just a lot more out there than there used to be.
Right.
And if someone does judge you, their opinion matters less than your life.
That's good. Well, I thank you guys for being on the show. Emily, thanks for being willing to be on the show, because there's not a lot of teens that would even address the topic, you know, and that's a big deal. And keep moving forward and continuing to help people, because just the few words that you shared here, that could be saving a life from somebody. Well, we want to thank you for joining us on the Let's Talk Recovery show, and continue to pray for Randolph County and the things that are going on there. You heard just in 3 years the things that have progressed there, and a big majority of it is definitely for Bob. And I thank God for Bob, and I wouldn't have my office there if it wasn't for him and a couple other people. So we thank you, ask you to continue to pray for us, and have a blessed night.